Welcome, welcome. Wow, what a crowd. It is great to see everybody here. Thank you so much for joining us. Continue to get your breakfast, enjoy yourself. We have a wonderful lineup for you this morning. My name's Colonel Kip Lassner, a member of the Weston YMCA Advisory Board and a colonel in the United States Army Reserves. On behalf of the entire YMCA, thank you. On behalf of the entire YMCA family of South Florida, I would like to welcome you to our annual Veterans Day celebration. I've been honored to serve in the military. Come January, it will be 35 years. I know I don't look old enough to... You could have humored me on that one for a moment. I know. My kids say I look more like George Washington than I do Rambo these days, but I still serve. So anyway, we're back to the script. We got to keep it going. We are happy to be able to have an in-person celebration to honor our veterans and service members as well. Some of you may be watching remotely on all of our virtual platforms. We have all of you here live, and we put together this hybrid event, and so excited that so many of you can join us, whether it is here live or virtually, to reach so many more veterans. I'm really just honored to be a part of it. So whether you're here with us in person or watching virtually, welcome. We have a very impactful morning planned for you, including some inspiring stories from our veterans and obviously our keynote speaker, Medal of Honor recipient Ty M. Carter. We're just so grateful to have him here today. Thank you for being here today, and for those of you watching via our social media networks, thank you for watching. I want to also thank the YMCA for hosting this Veterans Day breakfast and for wanting to recognize and honor all of our military men and women. This is the 7th year the YMCA has hosted this event, and each year we keep kicking it up a notch to this amazing event today. So proud that all of you can join us. So on a personal note, I am a board member, incoming chair of the Weston YMCA Family Center Advisory Board. I love the Y, the positive impact that it makes on our community. When I joined the Y about 14 years ago, and I always tell this story, I just happened to be wearing a U.S. Army t-shirt, and the front desk staff sort of stopped me and said, "Are you in the military?" And then they pulled out all of these benefits of the things that the Y does for military members. And I thought that was great, but I also thought that we could be doing more as an organization to reach out to our veterans and to get the story out of all the amazing things that the Y does for our veterans. And by the way, this is somewhat of a result of that, me wearing that t-shirt that day. So I got more and more involved in the Y, became a member of the advisory board, and a few of us worked together to form a stronger relationship with our veteran community. This has been a wonderful experience for me to work with the Y to make days like today happen. We also tell our Y personal story. My personal story has changed in those 14 years to just a few years ago when I had a severe head injury, a freak accident at home. It was a scary time for me and my family who are here today. Wasn't sure if I was going to make it out of that ICU bed, but my kids will tell you the first question when they released me from the hospital was, "How soon can I get back to the Y?" And when I was released, I couldn't wait to get back to, the Y family, my friends, the Y staff. It's just a big part of my life. This team helped me, spirit, mind, and body, and this is why I love volunteering my time with the Y, because of what we do. I'm so proud to be a part of an organization that gives back to our community. So now let's kick off this event with our presentation of colors from Broward Sheriff's Office, followed by the singing of our national anthem by Sebi Reyes Farinas.
On guard, attention. Port arms. Forward, march. At a half step, march. Colors, turn. Present arms.
Thank you, Broward Sheriff's Office and CB Reyes Farinas. Every year, the Broward Sheriff's Office really supports this event, and of course, we support our first responders, such an important part of what we're doing here today. And CB, 10th grade in high school. You can take your seats. Thank you. But that's amazing that she volunteered her time to be here today. You know, I could barely read a teleprompter, and she's coming up here and doing that. It's amazing. We have a special guest and local resident with us today. Happy to introduce her. Debbie Wasserman Schultz has dedicated her public life to serving South Floridians and standing up for justice, equality, and opportunity wherever and whenever it is threatened. As chair of the Military Construction and Veterans Affairs Appropriations Subcommittee, she leads the only committee in Congress that touches the lives of our service members through their entire life cycle. I am honored to call her a friend. I can tell you that she's dedicated her entire adult life to serving our community, whether it's in Tallahassee, Washington, D.C., and there's no better friend of the military than her in her position and the positions that she's taken to help our veterans. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Okay, that's much better. Thank you. Thank you so much, Kip. It has really been an absolute pleasure and an honor to know you for all of these years, to be neighbors, friends, and thank you for your continuous service, not only to our country, but to our community. I want to thank, again, the YMCA for being the sponsor of this really special and important Veterans Day celebration that we have every year now. I was really thrilled when that tradition started 7 years ago. It's hard to believe it's been 7 years, and really it is the result of all the efforts of the community leaders that are here today. That first breakfast in the gym at the Y, we've kind of graduated since then, and the turnout has also expanded significantly. So it's really wonderful to see people turn out in vocal and be present to support our veterans. And a special thank you to all of the brave women and men here today who have served and continue to serve in our armed forces. For generations, millions of Americans have answered the call to serve and taken the sacred oath to defend and preserve our nation's ideals of liberty and democracy. In choosing this path, you put our country and the freedoms it stands for first, and your own life, family, and career second. And for that, we are eternally grateful. Today and every day, we honor your service, your dedication, and your valor. However, on Veterans Day, words of praise, parades, and silent reflection really never seem to be enough. At least we do have one day where we make sure that we honor our veterans, but we know that we should be honoring their service and sacrifice every day. On this day, all Americans, especially those who have never donned the uniform, must reckon with the debt that we all owe the men and women who serve. And this is especially true for our Vietnam veterans who continue to suffer from service-connected injuries and who should have received the care and respect when they returned home to their loved ones, but instead earned apathy, scorn, and derision. While as a country we can never live down the pain of that history, we can ensure that we care for these veterans fully and make sure we never repeat that stain on our history. And I'm proud to know, and having spoken to the Secretary of the VA just last night, that they are expanding the number of illnesses and diseases that will be covered as presumptive diseases that result from our veterans' service. And that's going to make sure that millions of veterans have an opportunity to be able to get the health care they so vitally need. We also owe a debt to our military families for the sacrifices that they have made as well. By joining the military, parents saw your children answer a calling with clarity, purpose, and conviction, following in the footsteps of generations of young patriots that came before them. With that, they became soldiers, sailors, Marines, aviators, and coasties. They found a cause bigger than themselves and decided that military service is not simply a choice for a citizen to make, but a responsibility for them to fulfill. Every generation has fought to preserve our freedom and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Today especially, but every day, I'm proud to be in a unique position in Washington to help repay that debt. As the first woman to chair the Military Construction and Veterans Affairs Appropriations Subcommittee, I have the distinct honor, as Kip mentioned, to lead the only committee in the Congress that cares for our service members through their entire military life cycle, from their active service through retirement as they join the community of veterans. And we're making sure that our veterans can continue to receive quality health care at the VA, and most importantly, see that it is not privatized. Veterans have said time and again that they prefer going to VA facilities where the clinicians and staff understand their unique needs, especially because so many who work there are themselves veterans. And we will continue to fight to ensure the VA healthcare system is not undermined. We must also ensure that mental health care, suicide prevention, opioid addiction, military sexual trauma, and homelessness impacting our soldiers and veterans remain the highest priorities for the VA. I'm proud that we included nearly $20 billion to ensure veterans' health care needs are met in the CARES Act. With the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, we were able to include $60 million for the VA to pay for COVID-19 testing for our veterans. Our subcommittee worked hard to draft a funding bill for FY22 that reflects bipartisan priorities and demonstrates our commitment to our service members and their families and to our veterans. Notably, the bill includes $97.6 billion for VA medical care, and that will allow for 7.1 million patients to be treated in 2022 at the VA. And the Build Back Better Act, which I expect the House to pass shortly, will invest $5 billion to upgrade aging VA infrastructure. And for our veterans here who get their health care at the VA, if you've been to a VA facility recently, particularly Miami, she sure could use some help in upgrading her infrastructure, to say the least. It is our duty as Americans to ensure that veterans can access the benefits and services that they so rightly deserve, including comprehensive health services, employment and educational opportunities, and robust family support. In Washington and here at home each day, we all must pay that huge debt that we owe to our brave veterans. And we know, again, that it is never enough. And please know that I'll continue to ensure that we care for our veterans and provide them with the benefits, services, and respect they so dearly deserve. On this Veterans Day, I know you will all join me in this mission. We are forever grateful for their sacrifice and their service. And thank you so much once again for having this breakfast today, having me here. And you'll forgive me if I have to depart early because I want to make sure I can honor all of our veterans in my congressional district. And I have a couple of other Veterans Day services to attend this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Debbie. She's participated in every one of these events and has never said no to us. So we really appreciate your service to our community and to veterans. At this moment, we have a lot to do today, and I promise to keep it moving. But at this moment, we'd like to recognize veterans that are present with us today. If you are a veteran and can stand or raise your hand, we have a small gift for you that staff is going to be handing out. And we'll do that while we recognize our table here, which it's very important I talk about. But we can do that while we talk about how we recognize our veterans. Wow. Amazing. And so many generations here, from World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Desert Storm, that's how old I am, and so many of you that have served. It's great to see so many of you. So recognizing the men and women who died while serving in the U.S. military is important to the families and loved ones they leave behind. It's also important to their fellow service men and women to know that their service and sacrifice is very much appreciated. You will notice a small table set for one, symbolizing the isolation of the absent service member. The table is round to represent the everlasting concern the survivors have for the missing. The white tablecloth symbolizes the pure intentions of the service members who responded to the country's call to arms. The single rose in the vase symbolizing the blood that service members have shed in sacrifice to ensure the freedom of the United States of America. This rose also represents the family and friends who keep the faith while awaiting the return of the missing service members. The red ribbon represents a love of country that inspired the service members to serve the country. A slice of lemon on the bread plate, that represents the bitter fate of the missing. salt sprinkled on the bread plate that symbolizes the tears shed by waiting families, an inverted glass to represent the fact that the missing and fallen cannot partake. A Bible represents the spiritual strength and faith to sustain the loss. A lit candle symbolizes a light of hope that lives in hearts to illuminate the missing's way home, and an empty chair to represent the absence of the missing and fallen. Let us have a moment of silence to remember. Thank you for the moment of silence to honor our fallen heroes who died in service to the military to help keep us safe and secure. We have quite a few veterans here in South Florida as well, as many present today. And last week, Cheryl Woods, our CEO for the YMCA, had the opportunity to interview a few of our local veterans. They were gracious to share their stories, and you will see their sense of pride for serving our country. Within each interview, we have chosen a few highlights to share with you today. Let's take a look at one of Cheryl's interviews, featuring Weston's very own City Commissioner, Henry Meade, who served in the United States Army during the Vietnam War.
Welcome, Henry.
Thank you.
Henry Meade, not only that, but Commissioner Meade. So
Thank
it
you.
is absolutely a pleasure and honor to have you here with us today.
Well, I'm very glad to be here on this very special day for our country.
Well, thank you, and that's a perfect lead-in for me to thank you for your years of dedication and service to our country and even our community as commissioner. So thank you for what you do.
My pleasure.
Okay, so let's talk about this guy that's born and raised in South Dakota. You worked on a family farm, and you went to school, and after graduation, you entered the Army.
It was 7 days after my graduation, I got a draft notice. And then I got orders for Vietnam.
Vietnam.
And then I was deployed. It was a jolt culturally. And my original orders were for a little village called Quang Tri, which was probably a stone's throw from the demilitarized zone from North Vietnam, which was not a pleasant place to be. That was a pretty hot area.
Sure, sure. How did you take that to today's life?
Taught me discipline, taught me a lot of discipline. I went over there with one purpose in mind, and that was to come back alive and unhurt. And I remember very well, you could see the missiles going off, the shrapnel flying around, bright sparks in the middle of the night. You could see that coming around you. And, you know, you just hope one of those fragments didn't have your name on it.
I know that the Vietnam War was not necessarily a popular war, and you know, there were a lot of soldiers that came back to the States, back to civilian life. That transition isn't always easy.
No.
What did you think of that?
Thank goodness for my wife, who...
Yeah, I was going to say, you mentioned that your wife really helped you through all
Yeah,
that.
she did. She helped me out a lot through that. She brought me into reality a lot, because I'm not sure what would have happened without that dose of reality.
Right.
Because her, you know, she was the same person I married. I
Right.
wasn't.
Right, right.
I had
right,
changed.
Right.
And in some ways for the better, and in some ways not.
Any words of wisdom that you would have for some of our veterans trying to get back to civilian life now?
Have a goal. And don't be afraid to talk with people. My goodness, it's something you shouldn't have to go through alone. In some cases, these guys and girls have been gone a year.
Sure.
And it may not be the same state that you left it in when you get back to it.
Yeah.
A lot of people are going to be different. A lot of people are going to be different in your life. So, you know, don't be afraid. It's not weakness to open up and talk with people.
The Y, as you know, has been a part of military life for many, many years.
The Y does a great job. I mean, not just on Veterans Day, but they do a great job other than that too, with the programs that they've got. So many different ways that they get out into the community. I think the swimming program that you've got is fantastic. People don't realize, I don't think, what the how high the casualty rate is for drownings.
Right.
And anything that can be done to bring that down is a great big plus. So I think the Y does a fantastic job with what they're doing.
Well, we think you do a fantastic job too.
Thank you.
As a leader in the city, and I just want to say thank you.
Well, thank you for
It's a
having me.
pleasure.
It was a great opportunity, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Wow. Where are you, Commissioner Mead? That war, Vietnam was 50 years ago. And by the way, I haven't seen the video before. That Vietnam was 50 years ago. My war was 30 years ago. And if someone asked me to explain it, he just took the words right out of my mouth. You don't ever forget the missiles and the artillery going back and forth while you're standing there wondering, what are you doing here? Anyway, but thank you for sharing. It touched me, and I'm sure you all appreciate it as well. And thank you for being with us today, Commissioner. The City of Weston has been a big supporter of the YMCA and our Veterans Day breakfast. The partnership between the city and the YMCA has just been amazing and really made this possible today. Now, it's only appropriate to invite the City of Weston Mayor Peggy Brown, who herself is a veteran of the U.S. Coast Guard, to bring us greetings from the city.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the City of Weston. For those of you that are residents, I know that we always appreciate the beauty of our community, and to those who are visiting us, thank you for coming to our wonderful city. While we look around and it's a beautiful, aesthetically beautiful facility that we all live in, the thing that really makes us a city and a great city are the very people that live here and how they contribute. So as Colonel had stated, I'm a veteran myself, and in 1979, I enlisted in the United States Coast Guard. I was the second only all-female company in the Coast Guard's history. And I served everywhere. I was mainly at air stations, and I did a lot of supplies and logistics. And I think for those of us that are veterans, we all know how wonderful it was those times in downtime, whether it was standing duty, whether it was just hanging out with our fellow colleagues, our comrades. And what a pleasure it always was in the experience that we all had as veterans and serving our country. So I don't know what was hardest. I don't know if being a veteran itself was difficult, or being the wife of a veteran, my husband's here, he's a retired commander, or being the mother of an active duty member who's now also in the United States Navy. So for many of us sitting here, whether we served physically in the military or whether we were spouses or family members, it's always a real challenge for all of us. So even on Veterans Day, we always remember our moms and our dads, our siblings, maybe we have a child. And it's all part of our service to our country and the safety of our country and the very freedom we enjoy today. So I'm very honored. I have Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who's always been an active member in our community and, as stated earlier, gives great support. Secondly, we're honored to have Mr. Ty Michael Carter here today, and you'll hear his heroic story, and it talks about courage and valor. But what is courage and valor? It's simply ordinary people doing extraordinary things when they're called upon. And you'll hear his story, and what an amazing story it is. I'm sure there's many of us out there. I know Commissioner Mead, his extraordinary story in serving in Vietnam. As well, there is another commissioner, actually retired general, Chris Eddy, who also serves. So we have 3 veterans that serve on our city dais, and we're ever so pleased. But it doesn't mean that Commissioners Mary Melina McPhee as well as Commissioner Jaffe haven't had members who have served. I know Commissioner Melina McPhee's father served, and I know that Commissioner Jaffe has had family members as well. So it's all equally important in how we serve our community. But I do really want to thank everybody that's here today for your support of our veterans, for our active duty members and their families in their absence. So all I can end with is thank you for coming, and God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Brown. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your service and your support to this great event. Veterans Day is an important day for us all. The City of Weston is happy to partner with the Y to recognize and honor our veterans today. We're off. Sorry. I promised you we'd keep you on script and keep this going. So, and Gilbert back here is doing a great job. But many of you may not know the importance of Veterans Day, but November 11, 1918 was largely considered the end of World War I, the war to end all wars, and dubbed Armistice Day. In 1938, it became an official holiday, primarily a day to set aside to honor veterans of World War I. But then World War II and the Korean War happened, so in 1954, Congress amended the commemoration by changing the word armistice to veterans, so the day would honor American veterans of all wars. Veterans Day is important because it honors those who have served the country in war and peace, thanking them for their sacrifices. The people in our armed services, U.S. Air Force, Army, Coast Guard, Marines, and Navy, past and present, are real people who protect our freedom every day. There's less than 19 million veterans around remaining today, and that number gets smaller because less than 1% serve our all-volunteer military service. Next, we would like to share another one of our veteran stories with you. Stephen Moss, former Army company commander during the Vietnam War, attorney with Holland and Knight, and founding chair of Mission United, a program that assists veterans in readjusting to civilian life. As Stephen mentions in the interview, it is so important that we help our veterans navigate back to civilian lifestyle. For many, the transition from military to civilian life is not easy. Let's take a look at his story.
Hi, Stephen, welcome.
Hi, Cheryl. Thanks very much. Great to be here.
It's a pleasure, and let me always begin by saying how much we appreciate your dedication and service to our country and to the community.
It's an honor and a privilege to give back, to continue to encourage more and more people to do the same.
You had 2 years of active duty, right?
Yes.
In the Army, and then 1 year in Vietnam. That was a hard war for lots and lots and lots of reasons, and a lot of sacrifice. We always talk about the brotherhood that exists among our soldiers, and that's pretty special, right?
It's very special, Cheryl.
Yeah.
It's really what it's all about, and that's what life should be. I mean, we should look at the positive things much more than the negative things,
Yeah.
and always want to help others, help them achieve, give them a hand up,
Yep.
and be there for each other. And that's what's made our country so strong, is caring about each other, and we need to keep that.
Yep. You all have a daughter, Shannon, who also served in the Army. Is that correct?
Yes, she did. Her first duty was to go to Iraq.
It's one thing you being in the military, but what's it like having a daughter in the military?
Much more nervous.
Yeah.
Much more concerning. Every time you hear something on the news, you wonder,
Right.
is she involved with that? We would be talking to her and we'd hear an explosion,
Oh, geez.
and she would quickly say, "Oh, that's outgoing," or "They're bad shots. They never come close to
Wow.
hitting us."
I know she was injured in combat, and then she became your inspiration.
She did. And
So-
of course, she was injured in a firefight, and she didn't tell us. Of
Oh,
course
no.
not. Of course not. Not till she got home did she tell us. It took her 2 years to have her injury repaired because of red tape and complications. But the delay in this, and the surgeon, after doing the 4.5 hours of reconstructive surgery on her left shoulder, met with the three of us in the VA hospital in Seattle and said, "The system has failed you. Because of the long delay, I couldn't repair everything, and she will have a permanent disability."
Wow.
But what truly changed our lives was after that, I said to my wife Rhoda and Shannon, I said, "I hope someday we can help change this system because this is wrong." And then the United Way of Broward County
Yep.
decided they were going to start an initiative to reach out to veterans and their families in our community. And they asked for volunteers to come to the first meeting, and in time we called it Mission United. And it was really a collaboration of helping veterans and their families reacclimate to civilian life and navigate the system.
Yep.
And it's still the number one need that veterans ask for when they come back from deployment. How do we navigate? How do we work with the VA? When the VA can't help us with something, where do we go?
Right here in South Florida, the Y's making this a bigger and bigger and bigger priority because we have the capacity to create that awareness and educate people and connect the dots and, you know, just be part of the bigger picture. So, you know, we're pretty excited about it.
I'm particularly proud of how organizations like YMCA and individuals have come together to say this is something we need to do to show honor and respect to our veterans and their families.
Wow. Another great story highlighting our local veterans who have served our country and who are now working with organizations to provide necessary service to our veterans coming home. Well, now that you've seen our version of Oprah in the making on the big screen, it's time to meet her in person. Please help me welcome to the stage YMCA's South Florida President and CEO, Cheryl Woods, under whose leadership the Y continues to do great work within our community that provides tremendous support to our military families and children.
Thank you, Kip. I'm a far cry from Oprah, but something I will aspire to for sure, right? How are we this morning? Are we awake? All right, I want to hear you guys out there. Little hoot hoot. There we go, there we go, there we go. Well, good morning, and thank you all for being here. I think it's a very, very, very special morning, and what a wonderful, wonderful way to start our day. I'd like to thank all of our veterans for serving our country, and to thank you for what you do to protect our freedom. As you know, Veterans Day is a tribute to military veterans who have served in the United Armed Forces, not to be confused with Memorial Day, which honors those who have died and lost their lives while in service. Veterans Day instead honors all of our military, including those still with us today. So the YMCA, as you all know, has been a movement that supports our military family for many, many, many years and in many, many different ways, as early as World War I, which most of you might have news about that in terms of not knowing that the Y did that. So I'd like to share a real short video of how the YMCA has supported our armed forces for many, many years. Let's run the video. Give me a cue, guys. Yes, no, thumb up, down? It's up? All right, it's up.
YMCAs and the military have enjoyed a relationship that predates the Civil War. Ys have always sought out young men to assist, and the fact that men went into the military simply meant that the YMCA followed them there. In 1861, a conference with President Abraham Lincoln led to the full-scale recruitment of YMCA volunteers. Eventually numbering 5,000, members of the U.S. Christian Commission served as surgeons, nurses, and chaplains during the Civil War. The volunteers distributed medical supplies, food, and clothing, and taught soldiers to read and write. In the period between the Civil War and the Spanish-American War, YMCA work with the military consisted mainly of providing writing tents and Bible studies for the men. The outbreak of war with Spain saw a repeat of YMCA efforts during the Civil War. Ys raised military units and followed the flag to the Philippines and Cuba, attending to the needs of servicemen, prisoners of war, and non-combatants. In September 1898, a YMCA Armed Services Department was established, and in 1902, Congress authorized the erection of permanent YMCA facilities on military bases. By 1914, there were 31 military YMCAs and 180 traveling libraries. Almost 250,000 men stayed in their dormitories. The YMCA had an extensive presence in the military during the period before World War I. Throughout World War I, the YMCA provided morale and welfare services for the military. Almost 26,000 YMCA staff and volunteers fed and entertained more troops during World War I than did any other welfare organization, including the Knights of Columbus and the Salvation Army. World War II saw a continuation of YMCA services for the military and displaced persons. During World War II, the YMCA, along with 5 other national voluntary organizations, founded the United Service Organizations for National Defense, today known as the USO. The scale of the YMCA's efforts during World War II is seen not only in its USO work, but also in the number of prisoners of war assisted through YMCA efforts. It is believed that between 1939 and 1945, YMCA's worked with or supplied the bulk of the financing for working with some 6 million POWs in more than 36 countries. Since then, American servicemen and women have been engaged in other wars, including Vietnam, the Korean War, the Gulf War, and more recently, conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan. And the YMCA has been there for them, providing support to military personnel and their families in various ways.
This is just one of the reasons I love this job, right? Is that we have such a rich history. And I think what makes it even more special is all the things that occurred back in those days in that history started in rooms like this, in little conference rooms at a local YMCA where volunteers like all of you saw a need in the community and you stepped up and you made all this good stuff happen. And so that's the power and the magic of this organization. And I want to applaud all of you who support that, because I think it's just absolutely, absolutely amazing. I'm going to divert for a second, because a few things I want to mention is my very good friend, Marty Goldenberg. Where are you, Marty? Has another friend named Marty. Where is Marty? Heimowitz. Where is Marty? Stand up, Marty. So this man and a few others have single-handedly, residents of Weston, single-handedly has gone out and done clothing drives and has provided over 100 bags of clothes to all of our veterans. Isn't that special? See, the power of one, right? Power of one can do great things. I also want to do a huge shout out for John Antonelli and his team. He's our director of Weston. Where are you, John? John makes all this happen. I want to thank Esther. I think Esther's one of his right arms, who has prepared all of these bags and wonderful things for you today. The whole team, the whole Y team, I want to say thank you. Amy, for all the great work that you do each and every day for us. Incredible. George, for a great venue. I want to say thank you. And then all of our board members that are here today. And what a wonderful honor it is to serve with you for such a great organization. So back to script. Ready, Gilbert? Okay. The YMCA has always helped servicemen and women and civilians during times of war. But the Y has also been very instrumental, as you can see, in bringing national religious and community organizations together to pull all of our efforts to be able to serve our military, especially in World War II. The United Service Organization, or USO as it is known, was created to help servicemen and civilians during World War II, both in the US and abroad, especially in combat zones. So through the Armed Services YMCA, the Y has helped military families navigate their military life. We've included when they go through transfers, deployment, think of the child care needs, think of the families left home, and all of sometimes those financial burdens that go along with that. The why has always been there. The program is especially helpful to junior enlisted service members, their spouses, their children. There's so many sacrifices our military has made for our country, and yet the Y continues to be a partner in that. As a matter of fact, did you know that the Y has its own armed services branch? Okay, we have over 12 YMCAs across the United States on military bases doing incredible work for our team. So we're very, very, very proud of that. So let's just one more time take a reminder of why Veterans Day is important to us. Number one, it gives us a chance to thank all of the people for risking their lives to defend America and our freedom. It is important that veterans feel valued as civilians for their service and all of their sacrifices that they have made on behalf of us. Veterans Day gives us a chance to also reflect on the importance of peace. Peace. While our military often are thought in a war context, most veterans will tell you that what they risk their lives for is to defend our freedom. Veterans Day encourages all of us to reflect on the value of harmony in our daily lives, in our interactions with others. We cannot take our freedom for granted. We have to be better here in America. So this day also draws attention to the challenges and the sacrifices facing our veterans, to acknowledge that these challenges also gives us an opportunity to step up and to serve and to possibly give all of our veterans the best possible chance to live a healthy and fulfilling life when they get back here to America. So that's why Veterans Day is important. So on behalf of the YMCA, I want to thank all of you, all of our veterans, and all of our active service members for all that you do each and every day to protect us and to protect our freedoms. We appreciate you. Okay, so as Kit mentioned, I also had the distinct pleasure, as you guys know, of interviewing 3 of our veterans. And what an amazing opportunity that was for me. I'm working on getting better at doing this, but I was so impressed by their stories, but I can tell you I was a nervous wreck that particular day. You have seen a couple of those videos, and I want to thank Commissioner Meade and Stephen Moss for agreeing to come here and share your stories with us. Again, what a wonderful, wonderful opportunity. I also had the opportunity to speak to John Owens about himself and his brother Ryan, both of whom are Navy SEALs. And after spending a little bit of time with John, I can tell you I'm so much more proud, if that's a sentence, to be an American, all right? When I hear the stories of our Navy SEALs, I can tell you it was very chilling. You know, our country is so special, and we have so much to be thankful for, especially our freedom. So there are so many men and women and the freedom that they deserve the recognition for so many years, over 365 days a year. So I kind of want to show you guys that video with John Owens.
It is absolutely a pleasure and an honor to have you here with us today. I want to also thank you for your years of service and your dedication to serving our country. I mean,
Thank you.
It means a lot to me, and we appreciate everything you and your entire family have done.
Well, yeah, our whole family really is about it, and it's a pleasure to be here. It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to serve. Wouldn't do anything else, so it's what we do.
That's kind of cool.
Yes, ma'am.
So why a Navy SEAL? I mean, obviously your dad kind of pushed you that direction, but I mean, you picked one of the most challenging, hard,
I think so.
life-threatening types of positions.
To me, if you want to know about something, you got to do it. And I really wanted to know what it was, so I wanted to go and see for myself.
To become a Navy SEAL, you had to go through some pretty intense training.
The biggest thing that I would say differentiates us, and again, I work with some of the other guys in different services. They're all hard and they're all very challenging. In our training, though, we do have a hell week where we stay awake for 5 days and we're training constantly, so something like that. The physical toll is immense. The mental toll, that's where you're going to find out, okay, did I really want to do this? Am I willing to do what it takes?
Right.
Those are the types of things why I joined and why, my brother Ryan joined, and that's why guys a lot of times go in the military.
Tell me about Ryan, your brother.
We were both Navy SEALs together, lived in San Diego. He eventually moved on to SEAL Team 6, and he was able to accomplish 12 combat tours, 18 years in the Navy. I mean, literally hundreds of combat missions, and he took all of them, and he made the best of it, and he loved it. Yeah, you see a picture of my brother Ryan. I mean, big, 6'3", 230-pound, just good-looking guy. He drank all the milk. He got all the hair and the body and everything. But he loved it. Always a smile. I mean, just always smiling.
Probably made it easier for the other guys, right?
Always, yeah.
Because he was probably the one that said, hey, we got it.
Particularly later on in his career when he was a leader, a team leader, and the guys, you look to your leader, and it's tough. It's sucking out there. Bad weather, or you're in a long firefight like his Silver Star. I mean,
Yep.
that was at one point he was in a 74-hour firefight, and there's guys that.
Say that again. He was in a
74-hour firefights over 3 days, no sleep, constant fire. They killed over 400 enemies, and they freed a village of over 1,000 people that had been under control and for over a decade, and they went and freed that village.
What has serving in the military taught you about life?
Man, really those lessons that you learn in BUD/S, I think. When times are hard, you have to keep going. No matter what. Life's going to throw you curveballs. We lost Ryan. That was big for us, our whole family.
Are you able to talk about that?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, a little bit. Really, the specifics of how Ryan died was very, very similar to a lot of other missions that he was on. So this was a raid in Yemen. It was an intel gathering raid in Yemen. So they didn't want to just blow the place up, but it was an Al-Qaeda stronghold. They had real-time video, so they could tell that the guys heard them coming, because it was like shale rock going down the side of the hill, so they kind of alerted them. So they were taking up positions to get ready because the guys were getting guns and they were getting some incoming fire. And a couple of Ryan's guys got caught in a crossfire and were down, got hit. And so Ryan going down the mountain to pick guys up, try and bring them into a position of cover.
Right.
Caught a bullet, so he was wearing plates, but caught a bullet under the plates, so like leaning down. And
Wow.
yeah, and then that was it. But the mission itself was an extreme success. They got the information they needed, and they were able to take out terror cells all over the area. Yeah, but unfortunately, we lost Ryan.
Sitting in our seats here in America, and all that's going on somewhere else in the world, and knowing that you guys and Ryan were going after all that special intelligence that we needed to have in order to probably protect America
Protect the
is absolutely amazing. So you mentioned your 14-year-old daughter, and you told me earlier that she beat you in a race?
She did.
Okay, and it's the beach race, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's coming up.
Yes, so we have.
So talk about that.
You got it. We got. So she's not going to win again. No way. I can't let it happen.
Well,
I'm not
she's
ready.
going to see this, and then she's going to.
Yeah, she's going to. So, unfortunately for me, she started on the cross country team this year, and she's been running a lot. But we do the Ryan Owens Memorial Run. It's the 5th year coming up. This year it's going to be November 13th in Deerfield Beach. We run on the sand, which is just like a Navy SEAL training run that we do in BUD/S. But yeah, we do it for Ryan, and she's dedicated to it. She loves it. I think it's a good community event that everybody gets to be a part of. We have all the SWAT trucks and
Wow.
BSO helicopter flying out there. It's a lot of fun for everybody, and I think it's also good. Just we're there for a reason, and we put Ryan's name up everywhere and say his name, and there's a beer garden afterwards, so drink a beer in his honor,
Right.
and then that race is it's great. We love it though.
Wow, right? What a story. And again, we try to bring this reality to us so that maybe we can be more appreciative of what we all have, and especially as it relates to our freedoms. So I know John's not with us today. I don't think he's come in, but we intend to stay close to John and to obviously celebrate Ryan's life as we go through. So let's keep rolling here. Gilbert, we'll keep rolling. All right. That's because we go off script. That's what happens. So let me now, I have the wonderful opportunity to, I know we're gearing up for our keynote speaker, so let me welcome up on stage Tom McMahon, President of Milner, right? We know Tom. We're working on this, you all up here. Tom's going to introduce our speaker, but absolutely an amazing man. He is the president of Milner, Inc., and a great fan of the Y, and our presenting sponsor. And Tom and Milner have been extremely supportive of all the work that we do in the YMCA, and we're so excited. Tom's a board member on the association board, getting ready to become the next chairman of our board, so we're real excited. He's a resident of Weston, so he is very proud of what goes on out here. But let me, before we get Tom up here, I want to say one thing. And Tom's, no, you stay right here. And it's kind of fun to boss him, right? You stay. It's kind of like my little dog. You stay, Tom. You stay. Anyway, for those of you who don't know, I'll be really mad, but we are, as you guys know, a charitable organization, a 501c3, all right? And I have to stand on stage right now and really ask you to continue to support the work of this organization and the generosity that each and every one of you provide the YMCA, no matter how big, how small the gift may be, or your volunteer time, or any of those types of things can make our organization much stronger here in South Florida. As you know, we serve children and families and our active older adults, and we do some incredible work with our diverse populations here in South Florida, and we could not do that work without the generosity of others. And we're blessed as an organization, but I will tell you, it will never be enough to do the work that we need to do. So I want to encourage all of you to consider making a contribution today or a donation of any sort to enable us to continue to do the work that we do and to provide those necessary resources to make a difference in people's lives. I mean, I know it each and every day the impact that we make, and we just want to do more. So you can always make a donation at any time at our website, ymcasouthflorida.org /give. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tom, and Tom's probably going to say the same thing. Come on, guys, you got to help support the good work of the Y. And I just want to say again, thank you all for everything that you do. And thank you, Tom and Milner, and all of you for being here today. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, so Kip, I brought a backup plan in case things don't go too good over there. And, you know, it's the Navy training in me, right? We're going to have a backup plan when we get started. First of all, before I get started on the script here, I just want to thank all of our sponsors, because without you, these events can't go on. And without you, we cannot do the good work that the YMCA does. The Weston YMCA gives over $300,000 a year in scholarships, and many of those to military members and their families to help support. Many people do or do not know that the average veteran salary and benefits is just above the poverty line, particularly when you have a family. So it is not easy, the sacrifices they make for the pay that they get. It's important that we remember that, so I appreciate your contribution. So again, good morning, everybody. We appreciate it. Thank you to your sponsors. And thank you, Cheryl, for those interviews. Again, I do think we have an Oprah in the making there. I don't know about the rest of the group, but fantastic. Very, very inspirational, everybody that was out there. So Cheryl is right. We need to step up our game and give to the Y. Supporting veterans and our military service members is important to me personally. My dad was in the Army. I served in the Navy. Go Navy. You're going to hear that a lot from me. And my son, today, actually tonight, I'm heading up to Fort Bragg, has ended his enlistment, 6 years in active duty in the U.S. Army, where he did serve a tour in Afghanistan as well, and he's ready to get started on the next part of his life. So I want to thank all the veterans, and so I kind of have a bit of an idea of what life as a veteran is like. And so at Milner, we are proud to partner with the YMCA and support our veterans and servicemen and women because they protect our rights and our freedoms. That allows us to do business every single day. Our speaker today, and this is going to be fantastic, Medal of Honor recipient Ty M. Carter is going to share his heroic story. It's incredible. But let me tell you a little bit about Ty first. Medal of Honor recipient Ty M. Carter was born and raised in Spokane, Washington. He enlisted in the Marine Corps in 1998 and attended the Marine Corps Combat Engineering School, Primary Marksmanship Instructor School. He also served in the United States Army Infantry. He has received numerous distinctions and awards, including the Medal of Honor, Purple Heart, the Meritorious Service Medal, the Army Commendation Medal, the Army Achievement Medal, and more. He is also authorized to wear the Valorous Unit Award and the Meritorious Unit Commendation. Medal of Honor recipient Ty M. Carter is currently stationed, or has been currently stationed when he was discharged, as a non-commissioned officer with the 7th Infantry Division in Fort Lewis McChord. Medal of Honor recipient Ty M. Carter's story and his service to our country was turned into a major motion picture titled The Outpost. And if you have not seen it, it's on Netflix, it's on Prime Video. You need to go and watch this to get a little bit of an idea that goes on. So please go out and take a look at that. Let me show you a quick clip of Medal of Honor recipient Ty M. Carter's story and experience. Let's let it roll.
It kind of started normal. I'm just getting out of bed, and I hear one of the sergeants yelling, "Hey, we need somebody to man LRAS 2." There was an up-armored Humvee with a 50 caliber machine gun and the LRAS optic sight. I was like, "I got it, Sergeant. I'll go take care of it." And then as soon as I get to the door, a couple of bullets hit the wood frame of the door, spitting wood pieces in my face. I was like, whoa, and I took a step back. And I was thinking, man, if I'm gonna do this, I gotta hit this at a running start. So I'm running, bullet splashes all around me. This is more than I've ever experienced before. I get to the battle position. I get to LRAS 2. Mace comes around the corner of the vehicle, and I see a look on his face it kind of puts a cold chill through my spine. It was a look of sheer terror and determination. And that's when I knew, without any words exchanged, that everything that we had dreaded was happening right now. Everything turns yellow and black. Between 2 and 4 rocket-propelled grenades landed in between us. I asked Sergeant Larson, "Can I please go get Mace?" He says, "Okay, I got you." He got his rifle ready, I got my rifle ready. He opens a window and he's scanning, and then I run down to Mace. Mace, he's still alive, and Mace starts moving, and so I roll him over. I look, and it's pretty much just soaked from the ribs down, just blood. We get to the aid station, gave the medic a report how long the tourniquet had been on there, what's going on, this, and that, and they erased my name off of the missing in action list. I manned the sniper position until the sun went down and the reinforcements arrived. I wish I could have saved all of them. I just wanted to save at least one. That night, we found out that he died on the operating table. When I heard that, I thought I was a failure, that my entire life was a failure. Mace's mom comes around, and the first thing I can do is like, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." You know, if I would have disobeyed orders, I could have got it to him sooner. If I would have done this, I should have done this, shoulda, coulda, woulda. She had a big grin on her face and tears in her eyes, gave me a big hug. She says, "I know you didn't save his life, but what you did was just as good." And I was like, "Okay, what's that? I don't understand." She says, "Because of what you and Sergeant Larson did, he didn't die alone in the dirt. Because of your actions, he was conscious when he received his last rites. Because of all that, he was able to survive long enough to joke with his friends. He believed he was going home.
I will ask you, Ty, to never forget the difference that you made on that day. Because you helped turn back that attack, soldiers are alive today. Now, Ty says, this award is not mine alone. The soldiers of Cop Keating, please stand. Ty has spoken openly, with honesty and extraordinary eloquence, about his struggle with post-traumatic stress. So let me say it as clearly as I can to any of our troops or veterans who are watching and struggling. If Ty can find the courage and the strength to not only seek help, but also to speak out about it, to take care of himself and to stay strong, then so can you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Medal of Honor recipient Sergeant Ty M. Carter.
Thank you. I'm going to try to do this without the cane. Well, thank you again. Please be seated. I was kind of talking about the video, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's my whole speech. What am I supposed to talk about now? So, but thank you for the YMCA for bringing me out here. Thank you for how they have served the young Americans for over 200 years, and also how they have served the veterans. Now, also I want to thank the young lady that was standing up here singing. She's got a great voice. I mean, that's powerful. Thank you for that. And even in the Marine Corps, you know, that particular song, it just kind of was like a song about the nation. After what happened at Combat Outpost Keating, I started to listen to the lyrics more. For example, bombs bursting in air, rockets red glare. Yep, that actually happens. I've seen it now. And I get a little emotional every time I hear it, because I see what my brothers went through. And I remember the firefight. I guess you can call it PTS or that kind of thing, but. And also, thanks for the plug for the movie. Appreciate that. Like in the video, they don't tell you that we had been in many firefights prior to that. In fact, the first 3 months of my deployment there, I was at Observation Post Fritchie, which was above the mountain, able to look down over Combat Outpost Keating. We been in a few firefights up there, but we had the high ground. And then somebody from Keating came up and says, hey, you guys are headed down to Combat Outpost Keating. And I was like, oh, the rumors are that, you know, you got to wear your body armor everywhere. Now, if you could see in the video, you actually wanted to wear your body armor. Anytime you went to the restroom, anytime you went to eat, anytime you went to take a shower, you wanted your body armor on, and you also wanted magazine loaded, ready to go weapon. Sometimes it'd be random pop shots, sometimes firefights would last a half an hour, but you're always on the low position. And you're always pointing your rifle almost straight up in a lot of spots. So you sit in the guard tower, or you stand in the guard tower, and you're thinking, man, this is a horrible place. What's going to happen? What would happen if an overwhelming attack? What would I do? What would I be thinking? So I'm thinking, okay, well, if we get overrun, how am I going to go down? If they break both my arms and my legs, how am I going to go down? Well, I still got my teeth in my forehead, and I'll be gnawing on some ankles. So never quit, never stop, keep moving. Moved down to Combat Outpost Keating, there for about 2.5 months. Most of the day started with a firefight, so you wake up, you know, got to put my boots on, put my body armor on, still wearing my PT shorts, tan t-shirt, and all right, go to the next position, wait for a while until they yell all clear, come back, and go back to bed, or get ready to go on patrol or on guard duty. On that day, it was kind of the same thing. Okay, hear explosions, hear machine guns, put on my boots, put on my body armor, hear the sergeant running by, hey, we need somebody at our man LRES 2, the 240. So I was like, I got it, Sergeant. You know, I had 2 ammo bags, they call them, I guess, butt bags, full of linked 7.62 240 ammo. Get to the door, and oops, I get splattered with wood in my face, bullets impact. In front of me, there's a concrete wall and a turn, and you can see the dust splashes all over that. So, wow, I got to take this at a running start, as said earlier. So I ran. I had my 2 ammo bags with me, and I'm running. I'm going around corners, past the aid station, past the ammo supply spot, across the entrance control point area, and then there it is, 100 yards later, is LRES 2. Sergeant Gallegos was on the 240 machine gun, and he's firing to my right. Sergeant Larson is the M250 cal, and he's firing straight, and then Mace is firing to the left. So that vehicle, that area, was trying to protect an entire 180 degrees. So I see that somebody's already manning the 240. So I throw down the ammo bags and yell to Sergeant Gallegos, hey, what do you need? He says, we need more ammo and we need lubricant. And that's when I see Mace coming around the corner. He comes at me and he starts pulling magazines out of my kit. He grabbed the wrong ones because I had M14 magazines and M4 magazines. So he pulls some of them out, and then I pull the rest. So then right now I've only have 1 magazine in my rifle and 1 magazine in my kit that I can use for the firefight. But my mission at the time wasn't to engage the enemy. I'm strictly there to supply that battle position, because if that battle position falls, possibly the whole camp can fall. So I sprint back. Bullet impacts, I'm starting to see craters now. Get back to the barracks. I get inside the barracks, and Sergeant Hill, my platoon sergeant, because everybody's yelling and running around. He says, everybody be quiet, in not so polite terms. Then he said, we need to know who needs what. And I'm now catching my breath because I just did a 200-yard sprint with ammo and equipment on. I said, everyone needs everything. The only reason I said that is because of what I saw in Mace's face. That look is what told me that this is it. So he starts telling people, all right, you grab this ammo, you go to this position. You grab this ammo, you go to this position. You man this secondary position. Go, 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 go. I'm there. I was like, LRES 2 needs more ammo and lubricant. He says, we don't have any lubricant in here, but we do have some ammo. And then I was like, but they really need this. So he's like, hold on. So he runs into his little hooch room, grabs me 2 cans of WD-40. You're not supposed to use WD-40 on belt-fed weapons because when the barrel gets hot, they tend to catch fire. But, you know, it's combat, so who cares? It's not So I got my 2 cans of WD-40, don't have the ammo. I go to the ammo supply point, and it's this old door that's been there for 3 years, so it's wood, it's all nasty. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to yank the door off. It'll probably yank the lock off. So I reach and I pull as hard as I can, and boom. I got the handle in my hand, but the door's still shut. So I was like, all right. I raised my rifle and put 5 rounds in the base of the lock, opened the door, ran inside. I haven't gone into this ammo supply point because there's two parts to it. So I run inside, and I see a 40-pound cratering charge. I see stacks of C4 and satchel charges, and I'm like, this is the demo ammo supply point. 1 RPG or 1 mortar round, and they won't even find me. So I run out of there, go to the other one. By this time, one of my section leaders, Sergeant Francis, and team leader, Sergeant Harder, are coming around the corner, and I'm trying to, get in the ammo supply point. He's like, what are you doing? It's locked. I was like, I know it's locked. He said, well, we can't get in. I was like, yes, we can. I'm going to shoot the lock off. He's like, can you do that? I did it to the other one, so it's okay. Okay, cool. So I take a step back, and I squeeze the trigger, not even looking down the sights, and for some reason, the bar of the lock, it cuts it perfectly. So I look at that, I was like, holy crap, do my happy dance. Yeah, that's a sniper right there. So then we open the door, and we run in, and then a blast happens right behind me, and I get knocked forward. Turns out an RPG hit the opening of the door, and somebody was right behind me, so they got peppered with shrapnel that knocked me over. I was trying to help him up, and when in the movies, you see stuff and you see the blood splatter, you see, all that kind of stuff. In real life, when you get peppered with shrapnel, it's black. The pieces embed themselves, singeing as they go in. And he only started bleeding when we started moving him around. So we got him to the aid station, but I still had to run across the open space, the entrance control point, to get this ammo and get this lubricant to LRAS 2. So once again, time to sprint. A little different this time because there were more explosions. So, you know, it was like the pinball machine where running and then, oh, okay, not there, oh, okay, not there, and finally got. I'm trying to make this as entertaining as possible. So it's not as sad. Get to LRAS 2 and nobody's firing. No one's there. I knock on the door and they open up and Gallegos is like, get in or get the, out of here. And after what I just ran through, I think I'm gonna stay in here. So got inside, shut the door. You got Mace, he's already kind of injured. You got Sergeant Larson, and you got Gallegos. So there's the four of us in this vehicle the size of a closet, right? And it's all up armored. There's about 6 to 12 inches of hot 50 cal brass in the bottom, so everything smells very metallic, or if you rub keys together and you smell it, that's kind of what it smelled like. We're trying to figure out what's going on. Gallegos is on the radio. He's yelling, don't come here, stay away, stay away. Apparently they're hatching a plan to bring another vehicle to help pull us out. Around this time, Sergeant Martin gets the vehicle handing ammo over, but there's no weapons that can be used. They've all either been blown up or they're so gummed up or jammed up they will not fire. So all we have is our M4s. So he gets in the vehicle, he's crawling, I pull him in, he's crawling over me, he's very apologetic. Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. I'm just, I don't care, just get in, we need to shut the door because we still got rounds coming in. So we now have 5 of us in the vehicle. Sergeant Martin is on the gunner's platform, staying low. I'm in the rear right seat. Mace is in the rear left seat. Sergeant Larson is in the driver's seat. Gallegos is in the front passenger seat. Now, LRAS is an optic. And I guess it got shot up, but the generator that exploded next to it left, I guess, scrap that made the turret door jam open. So while we're trying to figure out what's going on and while he's trying to tell people, don't come here, an RPG hits the inside of the open armor, deflects concussion and shrapnel into the vehicle. And so basically, it's like the sound, huge dump truck hitting another one, loud, metallic, felt like somebody slapped me in the face as hard as they could. I forgot where I was. I forgot what I was doing for a second. In fact, I remember waking up in my barracks room back in the States, thinking, man, that was a horrible nightmare. And then I started hearing the screams and the wails and stuff, and I was like, geez, man, I can still hear it. And then I started blinking my eyes because of the smoke. Now I'm becoming conscious again. I woke up in a nightmare, basically, thinking that I was in a dream. So we figured out about then that we really needed to get out of there. So Gallegos looks at all of us and says, all right, we're going to take a vote. Do we stay or do we leave? And then I open my mouth, being prior service Marine Corps. It's like, doesn't work that way, Sergeant. You've got the experience. You need to make the call. So he says, all right, we're going to exfil. I volunteer to stay back, so does Sergeant Larson. But we're the first ones out to provide cover for wounded Mace, Martin, and then Gallegos. So it was like a ready football break. We all jump out at the same time. I immediately get in between the sandbags and the vehicle where the 240 was, and there's somebody right there. A guy, some Taliban or something. Someone is right there, 30 yards in front of me. I raise my weapon, fire at him. He dives into a bush, put 2 more rounds into the bush. I turn back and start yelling, hey, we got guys in the wire, and then it went to brown and yellow. The smell of burning plastic is what C4 smells like in explosives. Apparently, a few RPGs landed in between us. Martin is now injured. Mace is definitely injured. The rest of us, concussion, it's hard to breathe, stuff like that. So I gotta focus now because I still have to provide cover fire. So I turn and I see Gallegos carrying Mace down the hill. Martin is running around them to go past the latrines and then cross over. I yell at Sergeant Larson, hey, Gallegos is clear. And when he says that, he's right now behind me facing inside the compound. I yell, Gallegos is on his way back, because Gallegos turns around, because there was an explosion there, and he's running, gets nicked in his hip, gets turned around, he starts firing, and then a machine gun rounds walk up his chest. Weapon goes flying, he goes down to the ground. Right when that happens, I yell, Gallegos is down. Sergeant Larson comes around, taps me on the shoulder. He said, I just smoked 2 dudes over here, get back in the truck. So that's where we are. Don't know where Martin is, don't know where Mace is. Gallegos is down. It's too hot to leave the vehicle. So then we try to figure out what to do. We have no communications anymore, no radio. Just got to figure out. Like any type of person who's in this situation, how do I improve my situation? How do I improve my situation? So while we slide the window back to take a few pop shots at different enemy, inside the wire, outside the wire, all over, we got to figure out how to get this turret cover shut. So I'm kicking at it, pushing at it. Finally, I get that big chunk of metal off of there, and we're able to finally close the turret cover. But like most Army equipment, the latch doesn't work. So how are we going to keep this sealed? So I found some 550 cord, and I did a slip knot. Because if the enemy wants to shoot at us from the sides, we can pop out the top. If they want to drop something down the top, we can shoot out the sides for exfil. So for there for about 20 minutes doing this, finally got everything shut down and locked in, still firing at the enemy, both of us. Then I see movement of where Sergeant Gallegos is, and it's Mace. He's crawling on his elbows, dragging his legs. So I yelled to Sergeant Larson, hey, Mace is alive, I can get to him, he's right there. He's like, nope, you can't get to him. He's like, no, he's alive, he's like 30 yards away. He says, nope, you're no good to him, dead. Still too much incoming fire. So I yell at Mace, take cover, get behind the rock, because he had cover there. So he goes behind the rock. But we're still trying to hold out this position. So he's been out there for about 45 minutes now. Well, apparently, while we were there, and before all that, or after the attempted exfil, and before I saw Mace, the vehicle that attempted to come get us, they high-sided, and then we're there. So we can't even see them because they're directly behind us, only about 10 yards away. But so Mace is out there. We're still maintaining the position, and I hear a horn. I'm thinking, oh man, this must be the vehicle behind us. Somebody's calling for help. Sergeant Larson, can I go help them? And he said, no. And I was like, well, how about this? How about I get out of the vehicle, get underneath the vehicle to see what's going on? So he looks and he says, yes. So, inhale, exhale, check my weapon, make sure round's chambered, remove the safety, which is not what you're not supposed to do. You're supposed to remove it, when you see somebody in sight. But I can't get under the vehicle because of all the explosions and craters. All the dusts have hit the side of the vehicle and dropped, so there's actually a mound of dirt all around the vehicle. So I get back in the vehicle, and I says, hey, Sergeant Larson, the vehicle's right there. I can't see anybody, but I think I can make it. Can I try? Now, you got to remember that we are both less than a magazine each, so maybe 10 or 15 rounds. So I sprint to the vehicle, open it up, don't see any blood. I see a radio, but it's got holes in it, and I see a 249, which is a machine gun, or one of our 5.56 belt feds. So I grab that, I grab the radio, hoping it would work, sprint back to the vehicle. Sergeant Larson checks the radio, it's not working, but there is ammo in belt form. We both agreed that we're better with the M4 than a saw, so we pull out the belt. It's about a foot long, so another 30 rounds. Split it in half, and then we both start delinking it and loading our magazines. I think now that we had more ammo and that some of the firefighters, some of the incoming wasn't directly around us, is when I asked to go get Mace again. He looked and he said, all right, but what are you going to do with him? I said, well, I can take him to the little bridge, concrete bridge over there. It looks like it's got cover. He's like, how are you going to do that? I said, I'm going to carry him. I said, okay. I go out there, I check him, I put first aid stuff on him. He was missing most of his ankle, but his foot was still attached, so I splinted that. First, I put the tourniquet on. I used my knife or dagger to cut the blood slow coating from his pants so I could stuff the gauze in the bullet holes. And then I looked and I said, stay here, play dead, because the spot that I thought that was going to be best, it was too exposed to the river, and that's where we're receiving most of our fire. Told him to play dead, ran back to the vehicle. I said, Sergeant Larson, We can't take him there. We got to bring him here. So we took our Gerbers out and we undid the bolt to the front seat so it could lay back, kind of like an improvised stretcher. I told Sergeant Larson, I'm really going to need some cover this time because I'm bringing him up. So ran out to him, grabbed him. I tried to do the whole fireman's carry thing. It didn't work because he's wearing body armor, I'm wearing body armor. So I basically got down on both knees, picked him up and cradled him, and then ran him to the rocks that led up to the vehicle. Set him there. Sergeant Larson was around. He was helping. We put him in the vehicle. So he's sitting there. You know, his words are getting very shallow. He's only talking maybe one-word answers, kind of a thing. And I told Sergeant Larson, I was like, if we don't do something, he's already been bleeding out for a while. But if we don't do something, he's gonna not make it. So I didn't really ask. I said, Sergeant Larson, I'm going on recon. If I'm not back in 10 minutes, I either made it or don't worry about it. So once again, take a deep breath, check my weapon, and sprint. I see Gallegos, check his pulse, no pulse. Turn right. When the vehicle was out of sight, it was the most lonely, terrifying movement I've ever done in my life. I was frightened of everything. Even a blade of grass felt like it could kill you. Still in full-on firefight, still impacts all around. But luckily, when I took a knee before I turned the corner to the laundry trailer, I saw a radio in the dirt. I grabbed the radio. Turn it on, turn it off, listened, nothing, turn it on, turn it off. I wish I'd paid more attention in radio class. Finally, I heard some voices. I keyed in, this is Blue 4 Golf, is anyone still alive? Because we didn't know. We've been out of communication for almost 2 hours. I heard American voices, sprinted back, handed it over to Sergeant Larson, and I was like, it works, we got it. So they hatched the plan that with massive cover fire, they were going to make sure that we could make it. Now remember, this is a 100-yard sprint with a stretcher with somebody on there. So I had to get the stretcher and place it as soon as the first 120 went off. So as soon as you hear that, go out, grab everything, set it up, grab mace, put it on there, and then we started sprinting. We stepped on or over the guys he took out. I saw another dead body on the ground. I couldn't see it was American. I couldn't see his face, but I knew it was Griffin. He was my roommate for a year. Just kept sprinting. We get to the aid station. Because I've been running back and forth, doing first aid, carrying things, the surgical team or the medics, I couldn't let go. I had a death grip on that stretcher. They had to peel my fingers off the stretcher, and then I collapsed. I gave them a report, the tourniquet's been on this long, he's been bleeding out for this long, you know, need anything from me? And they're like, no. So as I was leaving, friendly coming out, wiped my name off the missing in action board. Sprinted to our barracks where somebody was already positioned with a rifle on the door, and I reported to my platoon sergeant. This is the first time I was able to relax in like three-something hours of straight combat. So I'm sitting there, I got blood on my hands. He asked me if I'm okay, and I said, no, I'm good, it's not mine. And I was like, I'm really sorry, I know it's a government building, but can I please have a cigarette? And he comes up and he lights one for me. So yeah, it's okay, we're not worried right now. After arrest, after I put on my actual uniform, actual pants and the shirt and replaced my body armor, the entire barracks was ransacked for gauze and everything else, including sheets, mattress, foam, that kind of stuff. After I get my bearings, after I get my equipment, after I get my magazines reloaded, the ones that I could find, I was asked to, you know, guard or man the sniper position at the aid station. So this is about halfway into the firefight. So this is 6 hours into the firefight. Still everything coming down on us. But now we have some air support. So we've got some bombers, we got some Apaches, even some Blackhawks out there. So I'm manning this sniper position with the Latvian Special Forces guy. They're the guys that are training the Afghan National Army. And most of the compound is catching fire. Our barracks is now on fire. We lost everything that we owned. I lost a journal. I lost pictures of my daughter, because back then not everything was digital. Lost digital cameras, laptops, everything's burning. Our burning barracks is catching the tree on fire and the headquarters building. So they're evacuating the headquarters building. But the tree limbs are touching the aid station. And since in the Marine Corps I was a combat engineer and I also worked as a lumberjack in between services, they're like, with this chainsaw, can you cut down this tree? So I checked the oil, I checked the fuel, revved it up, it works, excellent, where do you want it? Now there's a problem. I've never cut down a burning tree in between two burning buildings. But hey, it's a first for everything. So I go out there, I got my iPro on, and our barracks, there's ammo cooking off in the barracks. So there's the rumble, there's also the RPG. So as I'm cutting down this tree, I'm getting burns on the back of my neck because all the pine needles are left. I'm just kind of sawing, ow, ow. I finally get it done. I cut it perfectly to where it lands just parallel to our barracks. But fate didn't have it that way. It might have been the lean, it might have been the updraft, it might have been the flames everywhere, I'm not sure. But as it was falling, it pivoted 90 degrees and fell in the wrong direction. So it crushed the headquarters building, and there was headquarters building is where all the officers hang out. So I hear cheering in the background. It wasn't me, it wasn't me, but as it fell, I'm thinking in my head, oh no, 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 look out. So I'm embarrassed because that's one of the few times that I fell a tree the wrong way. But the limbs are touching Red's barracks. So, and also the force of the falling tree put out the fire on the headquarters building and on the tree itself. So me being embarrassed and like, oh, I messed this up, I climb up on the tree on top of the crushed headquarters building, and I start clearing limbs to create a path for the aid station and to make sure the fire doesn't spread if it re-catches. About this time, my platoon sergeant comes outside and says, hey, Carter, you're kind of the most exposed person out here, and I'd like you to come down now. I yelled out, I'm almost done, Sergeant. And then he said, Carter, get the down now. And I was like, Roger, Sergeant. So I went back to the aid station cafe and maintained the sniper position while Sergeant Clinton Romachet and his team cleared the rest of the compound and also collected our fallen. Now, because of the Afghan National Army wounded and dead and our wounded and dead, they had nowhere to put the body bags except for the cafe. So here I am, manning the sniper position as they're stacking body bags right next to me. And when a quick reaction force finally showed up, that was actually where I slept. And you get rid of you take care of the wounded first, and then you take care of the body bags second. So I spent the night sleeping next to the fallen. And we had an excellent glimmer of hope that we were able to get Mace out alive. Of course, that night, as you found out, he passed on the operating table. Ugh. So that kind of thing hits you pretty hard. You try so hard, you train every day, you make decisions, good decisions, bad decisions. Every single decision creates you for your new set of decisions. So Boy Scouts, YMCA, swim racing as a kid, Marine Corps, marksmanship, worked as a lumberjack. I was even a certified nurse's assistant. I'm very good at medical stuff. You go in the Army and you think, you know what, I'm going to save a life. I just want to save one, at least one, if this kind of thing happens. And I failed. So that kind of messed me up. 3 days later, we were evacuated from Combat Outpost Keating. When we were on the Chinook, as it took off, everybody cheered for about 3 seconds, and then everybody went quiet. We're not out of this yet. We got to FOB Bostic, Forward Operation Base Bostic. And it was very interesting. They had a lineup of people just handing us stuff because we lost everything, and all of Afghanistan donated to this because it made world news. They put us in a warehouse where we could collect our shoes, we can get soap, we can get cigarettes, because everything we had, like I said, is gone. And then we had to go to the aid station, and you had to pretty much strip down, and they had to examine every inch of your body, checking for injuries and everything else. After that was completed, the platoon sergeant, Sergeant Hill, pulls us all aside and he says, okay, now that we're here and things are getting quiet, this is when it's going to start to hurt. Contact your families, let them know that you're alive, because they don't know. All they know is that we were in a conflict. And he says, we have flown in counselors, so they're there if you need it. I wasn't really paying attention to what he said because all I wanted to do was bury my face in a pillow and not exist. So after that meeting was done, Sergeant Hale puts his hand on my shoulder and says, "You of all people need to go down there." I buried my face into his chest and I wept. He personally escorted me and sat in my first counselor's meeting. That's where my, I guess you can say, transition started. When we got back to the States 6 months later, because just because you had one bad day doesn't mean the mission ends or whatever. So we were at Bostic, several more firefights. I avoided going to counseling. I spent a lot of time volunteering for missions, because if you're on a mission, you're not thinking about how much of a mess up I am, how much I've failed. You're not, you know, the tinnitus isn't causing me to have bad dreams. I could barely sleep anyway. When we got back to the States, I couldn't be in my barracks room alone. The ringing in my ears were way too loud. I couldn't focus, and I avoided going to counseling, so I went out to the bars. I got cabs, went out, but I was happy. The happy noise in the background drowned out the bad noise in my head and all that kind of stuff. So I was doing good, but I started to show up to formation with a smile and smelling completely like alcohol. After a few times, Sergeant said, "You need to fix this or we're taking your rank." So once again, I went back to counseling. It took me 2.5 years for me to be okay with myself to where I could deploy again. I'm still recovering. Post-traumatic stress never really goes away. Some people say that it's post-traumatic stress disorder, and I disagree. There's no disorder. It's completely natural. It's the instinctive reflexive response of the body and mind to recall a traumatic incident to avoid repeating it. At no point did I mention combat. The most common form is actually a car accident. Sometimes you'll avoid that part of the highway. Sometimes you'll get a flashback of a memory of you being in that car accident. Loss of a loved one, that's a trauma. Sexual assault or child abuse, that's a trauma. And it goes from many different levels. For example, this kind of thing is how we learn. If you're riding a bike as a kid and you skin your knee, like maybe I shouldn't turn so sharp because that pain reminds you. You may not even remember it. If you're a small child and mom or dad is cooking on the stove and you keep on wanting to reach up and touch. Well, when they're not looking, you reach up and touch and you burn your hand. But at that age, you don't know the difference between ouch pain or I'm gonna die pain. So you scream, you cry, you're gonna die, mom or dad, takes care of you, gives you a kiss the boo-boo, put some ice on it. But for the rest of your life, every time you see a stove or a pan on the stove, what do you think? Might be hot. Don't remember getting your hand burned, but this is how we learn, this is how we grow. Now, how am I doing on time? I got 5 minutes? Okay, so another thing of post-traumatic stress. 2 of the individuals who were in that vehicle to come rescue the 5 of us did not make it back. Hart and Griffin. Griffin, like I said, ran past him as we were going. One of them did, Edward Faulkner. He had a wound in his arm because he was shot. And he was getting really upset because he's got 2 Purple Hearts now and 1 scar. So how do you explain that? Well, he got medevaced back to Germany and then back to the States. Got healed up. Now, we're still out there. We're still deployed. We're still on mission. And so finally, when he was healed up, everybody was asking, all right, you ready to go back to Afghanistan? I'm not going back there. So he said he wasn't going to go back. How can you go back to that kind of hell? Who would volunteer for that? So they called him a coward. They almost shifted him out of the unit. He said after that, he's like, I'm done. I'm getting out. So he got out around the same month that we were arriving back home in the States. 6 months later, I get a phone call. Hey, Edward Faulkner died of an overdose. One of the men who volunteered to come save my butt and our butts, because they didn't know, and he's not going to tell them, because why are you going to talk to somebody so bullying and evil? They don't need to know the truth. Plus, he probably felt horrible about it. I found out later that the Taliban posted all the video of them attacking us online, and he would spend nights watching it and drinking. he probably felt the same way I did, that he was a failure, that he failed his friends. But I was forced to get help. My leadership forced me to get help, and I'm here today. So thank you. I know that's a sad story. Let's see. I got like 2 more minutes? Okay, I'm good. What's a funny story? All right, how about this? All right, so O.P. Fritchie, this story is called It's an Obstacle. So up at O.P. Fritchie, because of my demolitions experience, my platoon sergeant comes to me and says, we have a bunch of aged demolitions in our little armory area. Can you do anything about it? I said, yeah, I'll take a look. Went in there, there's an improvised Bangalore torpedo, which is C4 stuffed in engineer steak with det cord wrapped around it. You got sticks of TNT and a bunch of det cord and a whole bunch of claymores. So it's like, all right, what can I do with this? So I reinforced the improvised Bangalore torpedo. I used det cord and duct tape to wrap sticks of TNT all over it. So now it's this big log of just don't mess with me kind of a thing. I used the claymore wire to extend a wire so I can get to the 2 blasting caps because you dual prime everything. And yeah, tape it up. And the way we're going to set it off is not with a clacker because I don't trust the clackers. We're going to use a car battery. So I showed this to my platoon sergeant, and he's like, we're going to use this. I says, okay. So he set up a patrol with shovels and pickaxe, so we buried it in the hill where we were getting attacked a lot from. So, I unroll everything. It's like, okay, you unshunt and touch the batteries to let it go off. And there was a bet going on whether or not it would go off. So I'm doing a overwatch position on the Afghan security guard shack above, and there's a firefight right where they're supposed to be. So I was like, come on, do it. And then boom. Oops. They said, okay, end the mission or return to base. So I go back, and one of my section leaders, he's in the guard shack, and he's like got his whole arms folded, tapping his foot. He says, that's too big. For 2 minutes, I had stuff falling on my guard shack. Go see the platoon sergeant. It's like, yes, Sergeant. So I walk in, and I see one of my team leaders, Sergeant Brown. He's on his computer, and he turns around and he says, did you just use an IED against the enemy? Yeah, I guess. He's like, I so love you right now. So then I go into my platoon sergeant's office, and he's on the computer too. This man never smiles. So I said, Sergeant Hill, you wanted to see me? So he turns around. He looks at me like he's going to kill me. He cracks a partial smile. That was good. We're going to do it again. And so, yeah. So later that week, a lieutenant comes out, and he says, all right, there's a lot of chatter that we made an IED. That's against the Geneva Convention. We do not make IEDs. We make obstacles. They are called obstacles. If I ever hear anybody calling it an IED again, we're going to put some paper on you, or NJP. So now you know it's an obstacle. All right, so we're going to open it up for questions now. Who's going to be the first? We have mics going around as well, so... Any questions? Raise your hand or stand up. Oh, right here.
I was watching the movie, and I was wondering, why would they put a base in a valley where everybody can shoot down on them?
His question is, why would they put a base in the valley where everyone can shoot down on them? That is an excellent question, and I had to read the book to find out. It turns out that because we were on a road that led directly from Pakistan, in order to properly govern a road, you have to put people there. And that road just happened to be at the bottom of 3 mountain ranges. So somebody, I guess smarter than I am, or wanted to pick up rank, said, yeah, this will be a great idea. We'll just put an OP at the top and it'll be fine. No. So I think that's why they did it, but yeah, I can't answer that really. All right, who's next? We got a hand over here.
How was your AAR experience after your mission?
After action review. We didn't really have one. They just said, you've got 3 days to fill out your sworn statement. And because of my Marine Corps experience, I took all the notes and then I filled it all out. So my AAR, or my sworn statement, was about 6 pages long. And I got in trouble with my other unit mates because they really didn't like me anyway. My platoon sergeant holds it up and says, see this? This is the standard. I don't want these one paragraph things, I shot at somebody kind of stuff. So do it this way. So that's how our AAR was. When we got back to Bostic, Fob Bostic is when Lieutenant Colonel Brown actually sat us down. Hey, what worked, what didn't work, stuff like that. And I told him, I was like, sandbags. He's like, what do you mean? I said, I was sitting behind sandbags and I saw it eat up 50 cal, like discus stuff, RPGs, and mortars, and the sandbags maintained. So the old stuff, the original stuff is the good stuff. Does that answer your question? Yes, sir. All right, who's up? All right, we got a question right here.
I just wanted to say happy birthday yesterday.
Thank you. Hoorah. Semper Fi. Marine Corps birthday, for those of you who don't know.
Yeah. Happy birthday yesterday, you know, as a fellow Marine. And just wanted to ask you, what made you switch to the Army, and how was that transition?
Let's see. Shoot. So, I'm one of the few people you'll meet that have been NJP'd in both services. But I got in trouble. Yeah, I got in trouble in the Marine Corps, and the day I got off restriction is the day I started terminal leave. I kind of lost faith in the Marine Corps. And then I was a civilian for 5 years, so I got partially demilitarized. And I'm pretty sure the Marine Corps wouldn't take me, so I was like, hey, maybe the Army will. And I was going to be either a cavalry scout or a medic, and they gave me my first choice as a cavalry scout. So, yeah, it's funny how things work out, right? Does that answer your question? Sure. All right, who's up next?
Hello. I'd just like to thank all the veterans that serve this country. There's a very small amount of Americans today in our population that serve the military to protect us. And if every one of those Americans would serve in the service, we'd have a better, stronger America, and we'd appreciate the things that are given to us for free. And those who didn't serve take it all for granted. Our politicians are politicians, but if we send those politicians to war and their children, you'd see how fast we'd have peace today. God bless America.
I appreciate your comments. I'm gonna try not to get into politics, but I can say this, that one of the reasons why I fought is so that my children will never have to see what I saw. So I am more than willing to sacrifice my time, my life, even my limbs, to make sure my kids grow up, I guess you can say, almost ignorant in a way. Because once you remove that ignorance or that happiness, then it's just, I don't want them to go through it. And however, it is their choice, and if my oldest daughter gets in the military service, they better watch out, because she's more stubborn than I am and smarter, so. But thank you for your comments, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Ty, thank you very much for sharing your story. Can you tell us what it was like when you were notified that you would be a Medal of Honor recipient and what that felt like to you?
Oh, wow. So I'm not supposed to really say it, but I was informed or insinuated that I was nominated. But I didn't find out completely until I got the phone call from a colonel in the Pentagon saying, hey, I'm going to let you know you're going to be called next week by a high-ranking military official. Will you be available? And I said no, because I'm going to be on vacation. So he sounded really stressed out. And so I'm thinking maybe this might be something. So I agreed that at the designated time, we'll try to find Silva on my cell phone. And yeah, we pulled over. The kids are being watched. I'm in the back trying to find quiet. And I get called, unknown number. A lady says, hey, I'm so-and-so. Are you so? Yeah, I'm so-and-so. Will you take a call from the President of the United States? So, yes. And so he got on the phone, and we started talking for a bit, and that's kind of how it turned out. And then I got a couple calls later, the rules, don't tell the media where you need to be, this is who you're going to report to, stuff like that. And in between the time I was notified and the time that it was announced, I got sent to the Pentagon. They're like, you need media training, because apparently the way I talk is not how normal people understand. Can't use acronyms, no dirty jokes. How to hold a mic, how to look at the crowd, all this stuff. So 8 hours, drinking from a fire hose. So, and then a couple weeks later, I had my first press conference, and that was, just dropped me to the wolves. There you go. But yes, it was very interesting, and my life hasn't been the same since. How we doing on time? We're good? A little bit, one more? All right, one more question. Who wants it? Yes, sir.
First of all, God bless you, brother.
Thank
for
you.
everything you do.
Thank you.
And this man over here, you're right on. Thank you. I'm not going to get political either, but how do you feel, and you don't have to answer this, the way Afghanistan was handled, the retreat or whatever we did when we left there?
Okay, wow, okay.
I know that's, I don't want to put you in this spot or anything, but I got my ideas, but I know.
I was very upset for about a week straight. Very emotional for about a week straight. I feel that a lot of the things that we did were a waste of good human life on both sides. For the first time, I actually believed that America might actually be the bad guy for once. Because not only did we prove that we were ignorant in how we ran the war or whatever, and also that we left all the equipment, but we showed the world that terrorism works. So I'm very upset about that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. Happy Veterans Day, and thank you to the YMCA.
Wow. I mean, just incredible inspiration, incredible story. These guys can tell you it's very rare that I'm speechless, and I even have a script in front of me here, but Sergeant Carter, I'm so honored to get to know you over last night and for a little bit this morning. So proud to be in your presence, and again, thank you very much for everything you've done, sir. So, very moving and inspirational story. We wholeheartedly appreciate your service and your sacrifice. After hearing a message like that, now is a great time to ask you to support the mission that the Y does to support military families, providing resources, child care, discounted membership rates, special activities, and programs. We don't do the work we do without your help. Good intentions only go so far. We actually need to fund these programs and make it happen. So we appreciate your generous support. Our sponsors, our members, people that donate, anything you can do certainly helps. So you heard several veterans today talk about the need for support when they return to civilian life, or support for their families. They're not in it alone, and loved ones that stay at home. It's not about you or me as individuals. It's about us as a community. During this uncertain time, your donation can sustain the outreach work that the YMCA is doing. Your donation absolutely makes a difference, and we certainly would appreciate that very much. So please, help the Y be there for our military families, and their children. Take a moment to make a quick donation. Any bit helps. Just go to the YMCASouthFlorida.org, all one word, YMCASouthFlorida.org/give. Please, anything you give will be greatly appreciated. So again, thank you very much, and we appreciate your generosity. And now, in our closing remarks, Colonel Lasner.
Thank you, Tom. Wow, what a great way to end today. I can't say thank you enough to our veterans for serving our country, risking your lives to keep us safe and to protect our freedom. We want to thank all of you for joining us today. We want to encourage you to recognize our veterans throughout the day and thank them for their service. I want to thank all the veterans who came here today. We have a World War II veteran, Battle of the Bulge, Manny. Please make sure you stick around so I can get my photograph with you, sir. And so many of our veterans. Thank you to the YMCA for hosting this wonderful event and supporting our veterans. The City of Weston for not only the support, but being here in all of our commissioners and our mayor. Thank you to our sponsors, Milner, my law firm, Colescott Cassane, and all of our sponsors who make this possible. So thank you. Have a great rest of your day, and make sure you thank a veteran today.
YMCAs in the military have enjoyed a relationship that predates the Civil War. Ys have always sought out young men to assist, and the fact that men went into the military simply meant the YMCA followed them there. In 1861, a conference with President Abraham Lincoln led to the full-scale recruitment of YMCA volunteers. Eventually numbering 5,000, members of the U.S. Christian Commission served as surgeons, nurses, and chaplains during the Civil War. The volunteers distributed medical supplies, food, and clothing, and taught the soldiers to read and write. In the period between the Civil War and the Spanish-American War, YMCA work with the military consisted mainly of providing writing tents and Bible studies for the men. The outbreak of war with Spain saw a repeat of YMCA's efforts during the Civil War. Ys raised military units and followed the flag to the Philippines and Cuba, attending to the needs of servicemen, prisoners of war, and non-combatants. In September 1898, a YMCA Armed Services Department was established. In 1902, Congress authorized the erection of permanent YMCA facilities on military bases. In 1914, there were 31 military YMCAs and 180 traveling libraries. Almost 250,000 men stayed in their dormitories. The YMCA had an extensive presence in the military during the period before World War I. Throughout World War I, the YMCA provided morale and welfare services for the military. Almost 26,000 YMCA staff and volunteers fed and entertained more troops during the World War I than any other welfare organization, including the Knights of Columbus and the Salvation Army. World War II was a continuation of YMCA's service for the military and displaced persons. During World War II, the YMCA, along with 5 other national voluntary organizations, founded the United Service Organizations of National Defense, known today as the USO. The scale of the YMCA's efforts during World War II is seen not only in its USO work, but also in the number of prisoners of war assisted through YMCA efforts. It is believed that between 1939 and 1945, YMCA's worked with and supplied the bulk of financing for working with some of 6 million POWs in more than 36 countries. Since then, American servicemen and women have been engaged in other wars, including Vietnam, Korean War, Gulf War, and more recent conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan. And the YMCA has been there for them, providing support to military personnel and their families in various ways.